Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Castro? How are
Um,
you?
I'm doing well, Lauren. It's good to see you. Um, Welcome back, everybody. Tonight I got a very special guest. Lauren Garvey's here, and I'm gonna let you take it away. Tell everybody who you are. Let's get right into the story.
So yeah, hey, good to see everybody. I hope you guys enjoy what I have to share with y'all today. My name is Lauren Garvey. Professionally, I'm a peer sports specialist, program director at Sunrise Community for Recovery and
Let's
Wellness.
go.
I'm also going on 6 years now, volunteer at the women's prison in
Let's go.
Swananoa and also in the jail.
Mhm.
I am also a certified alcohol and drug counselor.
Let's
Um,
go.
and I have, previous experience with just running treatment centers,
Mhm.
all kinds of experience working in the substance use and mental health field.
Nice, nice.
Personally, though, I am a person in long-term recovery. I've been in recovery for over 8 years now. To
That's what's
October will be
up.
my ninth year.
Let's
It's also been,
go.
yeah, it's also been
Yeah.
9 years since I've been incarcerated, which is a big
Let's
deal for
go.
someone like me.
Congratulations.
I've been incarcerated at Buncombe County Detention Center over 40 times, and I have been to prison 5 times.
Wow. That's a lot.
And so that's just part of my experience. It doesn't make
Mhm.
me who I am,
Right,
but it
right.
is something that I've used to elevate me
Mhm.
professionally. So
Right.
I'm also someone who loves hiking. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm
Yeah.
a partner. I'm all those things
Yeah.
authentically. I get to show up today for the people I love, and
Mhm.
I get to show other people what genuine, authentic love looks like.
That's
That's
what's up.
probably a key a key thing for me because for a long time I really didn't know what genuine and authentic even meant.
Right.
Um, and it's something I heard early on in recovery, and it was something like, no matter what I do, I always just want to try to be the most authentic and genuine that I can be.
That's dope.
And I feel like the rest will follow, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, we can jump in. I'm always like, where do I start when you start like with your journey,
Yeah.
right? You know, I grew up really popular in school.
Mhm.
I was really athletic.
Mhm.
I had my mom struggled with alcoholism and that really impacted my home life, and I think that's kind of where like my wanting to feel like, where do I belong in this world, because I never really felt like I belonged at home. And so I found that in sports, right? So like I
Mhm.
was good at it. I found my tribe. I usually like led the charge. I was a
Yeah.
captain. I was always like lifting people up.
Mhm. What sports did you
And
play?
I played soccer,
Okay.
basketball, and I played softball. I really just played softball to stay in shape, but I was good
Mhm.
at it.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what's up.
all state in basketball for 2 years, and
Damn.
then I traveled to London to play soccer. So
That
yeah,
is cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that is really cool. And I love
super.
soccer. I played soccer for 11 years. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Really, really, that's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know if it was like a dying sport or not. I know it
Mhm.
was really big when I was growing up.
Right.
But I just found that's where I could kind of escape from the chaos, and just like lack of what I was needing when I was younger, was I
Mhm.
found that in sports and in teams.
Yeah.
So when I graduated high school, I did have a scholarship to go play soccer. Now I'm from New Hampshire, so the scholarship was with a college up there.
Okay.
And I just made the decision that I wanted to move away. I was from, it's really small. There's like maybe 300 kids in my high school, not my graduating class, my entire
Yeah.
high school. It's like 70 of us that graduated. It's small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was tiny. And so I just like some of my family had moved to North Carolina. And so I was just
Mhm.
like, I really wanted to be with my grandmother. She was such an important person in my life. And
Mhm.
so my thought process was, I'm going to go to North Carolina and I'll kind of like start this new life.
Right.
And I started a new life, all right.
Yeah, you did.
I think initially, again, like when you think about how do people get where they're going, is like there's a break in the connection,
Yeah.
and so that's what happened. I had broken away from all of my friends, the team sports, just that structure,
Yeah.
just being a part of.
Right.
Um, and so I found that in other things. And so for me, it looked like I had my group of friends and we would drink and we would party. Um, and eventually for me, it started with run-ins with the law, but still
Yeah.
like really juvenile. Like I was of age, but like just really not big deal stuff. Like drinking underage, just like
Mhm.
enough to like get you into the system, but nothing
Yeah.
major, right?
How old were you?
I was about 18 or 19 when I
Okay.
first had run-ins with the law
Okay.
down here.
Okay.
And when I say North Carolina, I mean Asheville. I was in
Oh,
Asheville.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been in Asheville since 2005.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I'm considered a transplant to the locals because I've been here so long.
So before you keep going, I want to just touch on a few things that I really resonated with. So, um, really similarly played sports, and we'll get into, I believe sports teaches resilience, because if you take a shot in basketball and you miss and you keep thinking about the shot that you missed, like you're going to mess up on the defensive play and cost your team more. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. um the second thing is grandmas are so important, like
Yes.
100%. I started this show in memory of my grandmother, so she was always been my biggest supporter. God rest her soul. Like I think about her all the time. I love her so much. Back to you. Back to the story.
Yeah, yeah. Let's shout out to the grandmas. I called my
That's
nanny
right.
and she passed away in 2019. She was 98 though. So I mean, you want to talk about a strong
Wow.
woman.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And she was like, she was like she was I like to say caregiver. Like she was
Yeah.
the one who showed me hard work, who showed me, not to back down, to show me to like always be true to myself.
That's awesome. That's what's
And
up.
so just a huge, yeah, I get the nanny thing. So, um, but yeah, so I moved down here and it really, it starts, I think for me, it did start like innocent, like just partying, drinking. I
Mhm.
did notice like I didn't really have much of like threshold for like what was like I would go over the top, let's
Yeah.
say. Like I would be the one like, yeah, let's, you
Yeah.
know, do stupid things like drinking and
You take it to the
driving.
extreme. Yeah.
Take it to the extreme, all or nothing. And unfortunately, like rallying the troops, right? Like, yeah, this is right.
Yeah.
Like, come
Yeah.
on, y'all, let's go.
Yeah.
Um, and so, they kind of grew out of it. And then I was kind of here like not able to do that. And that's when I started messing with like ecstasy. The oxycontins were really popular, so like the opiates.
Mhm.
Um, and that's kind of when things really started to turn for me.
Mhm.
And I started getting really using the opiates daily. And I ended up going to prison for the first time. And that's kind of when I was introduced into the street life because
Gotcha.
there's partying and drinking, and then there's something else. And I
Right.
know that people who have lived that life know what I'm talking about, but if you have
Mhm.
just been a partier, like you can definitely go down that road of just like partying and ruining your life. But like
Yeah.
there to me, like that step into like street life,
Right.
it's separate, it's
Yeah.
different.
It's
And
completely different.
it's completely different. And that's kind of what I was actually introduced to in prison is I kind of like learned some of that, like learning how to survive in your environment for the first
Mhm.
time, right? Like
Facts.
I still had a job and stuff when I was drinking and partying, and then like I was like introduced to this whole thing. And
Yeah.
so I got out on probably on probation. I don't think it
Mhm.
was called parole then, but it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And I got in with some of the people that I was actually incarcerated with, and we started
Mhm.
using heavy drugs,
Mhm.
heroin, crack cocaine,
Yeah. Some really heavy
just
shit.
some really heavy stuff. And I don't have to really go into details, but
Right.
basically, I became an IV drug user.
Oh
Within a couple
wow.
of years, I was homeless.
Oh wow.
Um, I had just in and out of jail for like robbery, breaking and entering, larceny, just like really
Mhm.
petty crimes,
Mhm.
but just like living this lifestyle of like where am I going to sleep tonight? How am I going to
Hmm.
get high today? And then that just became my whole entire world.
That's tough.
Get get stuff, get drugs, figure out where you're going to sleep, maybe eat every 3 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
would just do that. I'd end up in, trap houses, everything else.
Hmm.
I got beat up a few times out on the
Man.
streets. Um, just an awful life. And like all I can remember towards the end was like I wanted the drugs to
Mhm.
just make it stop. Like I just wanted this last time that I was gonna shoot up drugs. Like please let this take me out. Like I
Oh my
was done.
God. Yeah.
Like
You were
I had
completely
hit,
done.
I was done. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to live. I had, I had completely lost myself. Like anything good that I felt like I still like had, even though I had made all these bad choices, like I had
Mhm.
lost all of that. I
So you were
felt
completely at rock bottom.
I was completely at rock bottom. I didn't, even to this day, like I can feel the sadness in my body of like
Man.
how lonely and how hopeless I truly felt.
So
And it's
I
not,
want to just pause right there because that lonely and hopeless feeling, a lot of people feel that. So I
mhm.
just want to acknowledge and give a little space to that feeling. And I also want to commend you because you made it past that. So when you found yourself at complete rock bottom, when you just wanted to no longer be here, and it was just sadness, loneliness, emptiness, how did you how did you go from that to somebody who is a warrior for other people who are going through something similar, somebody who gives hope all the time? I've heard you speak a few times, and you're incredible. Like your story and your poise and the way that you communicate is powerful. But how, in that moment, how did you start to pull yourself back out and rebuild your life into who you are today?
You know, just when I think about like where like, people always ask me that, like, where did the transition happen?
Yeah, of
And, I'll just tell my version of it. And I think it's important to remember everyone has a different version, but
course.
for me, it was powerful.
Hmm.
It was a spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
I was in the jail again. This is 2016. I was in the jail
Hmm.
and I remember like looking in the mirror and I didn't recognize the person looking back. And I thought like it was like the first time I really like it caused this like overwhelming fear inside of me, like
Hmm.
when I didn't recognize the reflection.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just remember saying like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Hmm.
And I like, like having a pep talk, like almost like you're in that huddle and you're giving yourself a pep talk,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah. You're rallying the
I'm
troops
like,
again.
yeah, I'm like, and I just am having this talk. I'm like, I want this. Like, I want to do something different, but I'm gonna have to do it alone.
Yeah,
And I knew in that moment how alone I truly felt. Like, I actually felt that feeling. Like, everything
yeah,
had been numb for so long, but I finally felt like how alone I really felt and how I felt like there was nobody and like telling myself, like, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it alone.
yeah.
But I could not be further from the truth because I didn't know it yet. But someone was going to come in the jail and they
Mhm.
were going to share their truth and they were going to share their
Ah,
hope and their experience. And this little thing inside of my chest, when I heard them speak,
yeah.
started
It just,
beating. It was like,
yeah.
whoop. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
And
what is that? What is
what is
that?
that? And again, just like super powerful,
Mhm.
and it was the first time I'll never forget it. And I've shared this too and some other things that I've been in, but there's a red tape in the jail. I don't know if you've been in, but there's this red tape, and
Mhm.
when you want to go get water, use the bathroom, you look at the officer and you say permission to cross the red line or whatever. And I just remember I was standing at that red line, and this person who had come in and shared they came every week,
Yeah.
and I would go to their groups and just like listen to what they had to say, and was just like dumbfounded that someone had been in my shoes and learned a way out, like that never even registered to me when I was in my use, like when I
So
was using
you had
out there
heard
in the
this
street.
person speak before.
Well, they came, no, well, not until they came into the jail, but they came every
Okay.
week. And so
Okay.
I was like, I would go because I was like, that little thing in my chest
It
was
started
beating
beating the
every time.
first time. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, the first time I heard her speak, I was just like, man, like I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Like I've
Yeah.
just spent the last 9 years in active addiction and
Hmm.
I couldn't connect with anything
Hmm.
except drugs,
Right.
except hopelessness, except anything but nothing positive.
Right.
And so when she spoke and I would my I couldn't even stop it. Like my body physically connected with her
Hmm.
whether I wanted to or not.
Yeah.
And so I was listening and it was the first person I was at that red tape and I remember it was the hardest thing I ever did. This was the hardest thing in my life that I ever did
Hmm.
was I couldn't even look up, I couldn't look her in the eye. And I said, I need help and I don't know what that looks like. And, she offered me some resources. They were a little more scarce than they are. Thank goodness we have more resources now.
Hmm.
Um, and I just remember how powerful and how much strength and courage it took me
Hmm.
to ask another human for help and support. It was
Right.
such a big turning point
Hmm.
because it was the first time in my life that I've probably ever asked for help.
So I want to
Um,
stop you right there for a second because you just said a couple of really powerful things and I just want to highlight them. The first one is somebody who had been in your shoes came and spoke to you. And that's incredibly powerful. I've been in prison, you know this. And when I was locked up, and for the people that are watching this that are still behind the wall, they understand this as well. People come in all the time. Before you can preach at us or give us a message or tell us what we need to be doing with our lives, you have to connect, right? So, and I'm not taking anything away from the heart that the people that go into prisons that have never been in trouble have, but it's just different, right? It's different. It's something about you telling your story, me connecting and identifying with things that you're talking about. Now we have that connection. Now I'm paying attention, as opposed to you telling me that I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, when you've never walked a day in the life that we've walked, right? That's the first thing. The second thing that was really powerful that you said was how hard it was to ask for help. I think a lot of times, especially in like the work that we do, helping people that need help, sometimes there are individuals that do this work that think, oh, if somebody needs help, they need to ask for it. That's incredibly hard for some people. So I
exactly.
just I just wanted to highlight that. But good on you for asking for help. And go ahead, continue with the story.
Yeah, and I think, like when I think back on like that experience in jail, it was just like, the whole time I was like, I'm gonna do this alone, I'm by myself. And then it was like,
Hmm.
oh, here comes this person that just showed up and is like,
Yeah.
making me rethink about choices.
Hmm.
Like, no, just someone saying like, hey, you don't have to keep doing that. You can do
Right.
something else. Like, no one had ever said anything like that to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Like just someone being vulnerable, being honest, being authentic, being
Mhm.
being genuine. It was
Yeah.
like it was powerful for me. It was a
Yeah.
very powerful experience.
Yeah.
And so that's when things kind of just changed for me. I knew I did really well with structure. I just think of like even from the time I was little up until my substance use, up until, recovery, like that having that routine was really important to me. So I did go into a long-term treatment when I got out of jail, completely willing. I wasn't on paper. I was just like, I think I'll be successful. I stayed, I
Mhm.
graduated.
That's what's up.
Um,
Not on
and then that
paper.
not on paper. I went willingly.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It's a tough program. It's, you have to work and it's not super easy, but I've never been someone that didn't like work.
Hmm.
So, that was to my advantage. That's kind of where, once I kind of established, I always try to tell this too, like people are so like gung ho to get into recovery. And I think it's always important to just pause and remember like recovery is hard. When you're coming from years of like substance use or mental health or
Hmm.
like the streets to
Hmm.
something like recovery,
Hmm.
it's hard.
Right.
Would I trade it for anything? No. But like I
Yeah.
always say, the first 6 months are like you're on a bike riding downhill, like hoping you don't fall off the bike. Like
Yeah.
it is intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are relearning so many things.
Right.
And I just, I did 12-step meetings and I would go and I would listen. Like I
Hmm.
felt like I really grasped the fact like willingness, open-mindedness and honesty were really important. And so I
Hmm.
try to like prioritize that. Like let me
That's
be
what's
an
up.
honest person. Let me be open-minded. Like let someone else tell me how to do things. It's
Hmm.
okay.
It's okay.
Because I honestly, you let me do it and I'm gonna be right back in jail.
Yeah.
Um,
I
So
feel you.
I just became that person that was gonna be like a sponge and I was willing to um put all of that what I had been through and all of those things like to the side
Hmm.
to try to like figure out this new life.
Mm,
And I had people in my corner that just kept showing up for me and like I always say like loved me while I learned to love myself.
that's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, because I was messy in the beginning. People see me now and they're like, golly. And I was like, yo, go back 6 years ago, go back 7 years
Yeah.
ago. It
You
wasn't
might
all
not
it wasn't
recognize
all
me.
pretty.
Right.
Um, but then so when I started like the professional, I like to say in like my professional career, I did become a peer support specialist.
Mhm,
I did become a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I stayed in
mhm,
that field as a counselor for about 6 years.
mhm.
And this whole time, I just like really remember I wanted to be like, I wanted recovery to not just be something I did. I wanted it to be like who I was.
Right.
And so I kind of hit the ground running with that. I took it seriously. Someone said, they're like, man, if you worked as hard at your recovery as you did for those drugs, the sky's the limit. And
It's
like,
a
I took
fact.
that to heart. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, you have no idea how hard I would work for 20. You have no idea. So imagine what I could do in recovery. And so
That's
I just
right.
always
That's right.
I
Oh,
always
that's
took it
cool.
seriously.
Hmm.
I had fun. I had lots of fun, but I did take things really serious in the beginning. When they told me it was life or death, I believed it because
Yeah.
I had overdosed several times.
Damn.
Um, yeah, and so I didn't take it lightly. And I just kind of, when I think about what the things that I've, I guess, accomplished, it's a
Hmm.
lot. I've opened a recovery house in
That's
Asheville.
what's up.
We're not currently open. We were only open for about 6 months, but what we did do is we kind of
Hmm.
started the momentum on accepting MAT. So
Mm,
I
that's
don't
dope.
utilize MAT myself, but I am a huge advocate for it because I know statistically how much it supports people.
Right.
And so that was kind of like that was really taboo back in 2018. Like it was like,
Hmm.
nah, no,
It's still
support that.
taboo now sometimes.
It's still taboo. It's got some
Hmm.
momentum, but it is. It's still stigmatized and judged.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I like to say like I'm an advocate for that.
Yeah.
And then I think my whole entire story ties into like why I do what I do now, which is
Yeah.
I started going in the jail and giving the women what was so freely given to me now
Mm,
for the last 5 years. And so I
yeah.
did groups for a long time. And it was just like, how could I not do this?
Right.
How could I not go back into these institutions and be like, yo, let's have real conversations. Let's
Right.
have honest conversations. Let's have open-minded conversations.
Hmm.
Let's come up with plans. Like, you don't want to just leave into nothing. Unfortunately, that's what I had to do, and I was lucky. But when you get released into absolutely no support,
Hmm.
no wonder the return of to going back to prison is so high. Like
That's a fact.
it just doesn't work, right? And
Mm-mm.
so it's my calling. Like I
Hmm.
I do work in this field and I do other things, but I can
Hmm.
always tell like passion versus just like profession.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I've probably supported and just helped many women and I'm always like and I don't that's volunteer work, and I always am like,
Yeah.
maybe I might make a bigger difference when I'm not being paid than when I am, because it's passion, right?
Right,
It's
right, right.
passion. And that's just like that's the full circle for me. That's the full circle story. I come from basically someone coming in here and sharing hope. And I think that's
Mhm.
kind of where I learned to have my voice, is because it's so
Yeah,
important. Like, how many of our friends are dying in silence because someone else won't speak up?
right.
And so I wanted to make it my purpose to like use my voice to the best of my ability so
Yeah.
that they don't die in silence, so that
Yeah,
they know
that's
there is another
amazing.
way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's incredible because I know a lot of times people that are in prison or people that are in active addiction and are on their way to prison or what, or in and out, that cycle,
Mm.
they're basically counted out a lot of times and kind of just written off. And it's amazing to me how one person being willing to volunteer to go into a jail just so happened to cross paths with you. They opened your eyes to a new possibility, right? They opened your eyes to a new profession where your darkest days can help people through their darkest days. And I like to say that we are best suited to help the people that we once were, right? So I just think it's incredible that those times where you felt like you had no value, you felt like you had no hope, where you felt like you had no worth, no support, the list can probably go on, is a part of the reason and is a part of the impact that you're able to have today and do the work that you do today, even if you say that you feel like you do better as a volunteer than getting paid for it, because it is going outside of yourself. It is on your off time when you maybe would rather be chilling at home on the couch or something. So I want to definitely acknowledge that, because shout out to you for not only turning the tide from 40 plus incarcerations and now like you're going to the jail voluntarily like but also being willing to be vulnerable, because you never know, there might be one person or two people in there whenever you go in that are going to hear it and completely turn their lives around whether you hear about it or not.
Right.
So I want to ask you now, if you could impart some wisdom. I like to call them seeds because, it's the seeds of greatness. What are, if you could give me three, I mean, I'm sure you could probably give me more, but if there are three things that you think people need to hear, whether they take it or not, it's just you're offering it. What would they be?
Yeah. And beautifully said. I appreciate you saying that all back to me.
Thank you.
If I was, it's funny because I always say a lot of things to the people that I'm speaking to. You
Yeah.
put on the spot though, it's like, oh, you know, I guess a famous one for me that I say a lot is like, do not let the things that you've experienced define who you are. I think I wore those words of like junkie, convict, felon, and I made it who I was for a long time. And I think if you can see outside of that, like you're so much more than that. Like
Right.
everything that you've done and that you've experienced does not define you.
Right.
And if you put those limitations on yourself, you'll never figure out like what your full potential is. If
Mm,
someone told me that I would be where I am in my life right now, I would have laughed, even in recovery. Like, even if you
right.
went back 5 years, I would have been like, there's no way.
Right.
Uh, but I just never let the things that had happened to me in my past be the reason why I wasn't going to move forward.
That's deep.
Um, the next one. I'm going to just talk to, I think, the community on this one.
Okay, let's get it.
So I think that, well, I take full responsibility for everything that I did, and at the things that I was arrested for, I am guilty of. And I
Mm,
added for, I just want to say that, and I
yeah.
don't want to deny any of that because accountability does matter. It's super important.
Facts.
It's super
Facts.
important in recovery. But I think it's important that like community members, partners, employers, they see the value in people who have been incarcerated because honestly, I've worked with so many people who share incarceration backgrounds,
Mhm.
and they are some of the smartest and hardest working people ever.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
that's a shout out. Like if
Yeah.
you do see this and you're on the edge, you're on the fence, like give them a chance. And in saying that, like it's important that when we get opportunities that people like you and I take them seriously because
Mhm.
we're the ones that are going to open more doors for other people.
It's a fact.
And that's another reason why like I take my job, my profession, and my personal life so serious
Hmm.
because I know people are watching me. I know I
Yeah.
have eyes on me, and
Yeah.
I want to represent
Mhm.
someone that they can look up to.
That's what's up.
Um, and then the third thing, find your tribe. Find the people,
Let's
find the
go.
people who are going to love you for who you are,
Mhm.
that are going to help you build, who are not going to drag you down. So one of my favorite sayings is it's a lot easier for you to be pulled down than it is for someone to pull you up. So
It's a
make
fact.
sure like the people that you're around are people who want to pull you up. And there's a saying like, hey, if you want to play guitar, you hang out with people who play guitar. You want to be a business owner,
Mhm.
you hang out with people who are business owners. So when you
Yep.
look at the top three people in your circle,
Hmm.
what is it that about them that draws you to them? And are they helping you grow and helping you build a life that you really want?
Yeah. Well, I love that. Thank you. And that is really deep. I especially we talk about the third one all the time. And in the CHW profession, we call it the social and community context, but there's all kind of analogies and metaphors for it. If you hang around a barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're gonna get a haircut. Show me
Yeah,
five poor people. If you hang around with five poor people, you're gonna be number six. So you're absolutely right. And I just want to emphasize that it's not just a platitude. It's not just something that people say. It's true because what we hear all the time becomes normalized and then it becomes internalized and then it becomes vocalized. So sooner or later we become our environment. And also shout out to you for speaking to the community and letting them know. Well, you spoke to the community and to the people who have been in our shoes because yes, the community would do well to give them a chance because they're coming home to the community anyway. And the people that are coming home need to take the opportunity seriously because they can either open the door or they can shut the door.
right. Exactly.
So
Yep.
that was excellent. Thank you so much for saying that and calling everybody out in one moment. Like both sides, you called everybody
Yeah, I'm
out.
calling everybody out.
So what's next? What's next for Lauren Garvey?
Yeah, what's next? So, I've started my full-time career with Sunrise and that's
Mhm.
going great. We just keep expanding as an organization and so I look
Mhm.
forward to seeing what's next in that realm.
Mhm.
I've been a lot more consistent back with the prison and so I've entailed like different scenarios like we do panel discussions. I've got some other community people coming in. I really
Mhm.
try to empower the women. Now that I haven't been incarcerated since 2016, I do love like someone with more fresh of a taste because it does
Mm.
evolve, it does change, their
Mhm.
experiences change.
Right.
um and so that's kind of been a big focus of mine. Those groups are going great. Like,
Yeah,
but I can't wait for some of the women that have gotten out more recently, like for that year to go by. And if, they're ready, like bringing them back in and just
that's
kind of
good.
like maybe eventually passing the torch, like still being
Of
involved, but
course.
like let's keep it going. Like
Right.
it doesn't end. Like one day it's gonna be passed on to someone else.
Mhm.
I wanna continue to travel. And man, I don't, I got pretty big dreams. I'm just
That's what's
like
up.
want to buy a second home. So like
Let's
financial
go.
dreams.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, Castro, like I just want to be for so many years of my life, I just wasn't genuinely happy.
Mhm.
I played the part
Mhm.
sometimes, and then I just was miserable for a long time during my substance use. And I really just like I want to be happy because as long as I'm feeling good about myself, that's how I'm going to make the biggest impact.
Mm, yeah.
Taking it easy, like taking things easy, like being serious, being ready to charge, and also
Mhm.
like making sure Lauren's being taken care of too.
Right. No, I love that. And it makes me think of something that Coach Prime said about taking care of yourself. He said, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. When you play good, they pay good. So
Right, that's
shout
right.
out to
Yeah.
Coach Prime. No, I no, I love hearing your story and I love the encouragement. And thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me and the community and the people
The community.
who need to step up and show them that, hey, we can recover, we can do well in community. We just
Hmm.
messed up for a little while, but it's not over. And I do not believe that people are disposable. So I do believe in accountability. I do believe in owning it and changing the behavior if you get a second chance. Um, so it's kind of a balance. Like I definitely don't believe that people are disposable, but I also don't believe that you can do whatever you want to do and get away with it because I know I'm not going for that shit and I know you're not going for it either. So tell everybody where they can reach out to you or Sunrise, like give them a plug.
Yeah, so I guess I am a what do you call it? Whatever it is on social media. So you can just look me up, Lauren Garvey. I got a weird spelling of my last name, so it's probably me, Garvie. Scottish. And
Scottish.
yeah,
Yeah.
Scottish. And then you can email me. I'll just give out my personal email and that's fine. It's leg52487@gmail.com. And then I got a phone number, 828-417-1814. And I'm always down to talk. A lot of people do reach out to me on
Hmm.
Facebook. And I'm totally there for it. I support people all the time on social media,
Hmm.
whether they're across the state. I've helped people
Hmm.
from other states.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
an
up.
open book. I try to keep it as friendly. I always try to remember this one thing. This is probably what I should have said when you asked me for three things. I always try to be I always try to be the person that I needed when I was
Mm,
struggling. So
that's deep. That's deep. You ever thought about writing a book?
I have thought about it, and
Yeah.
I've started a few times, but then not been consistent with it.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay. Maybe that's
it's
something to
been,
revisit. You said you're an
yeah,
open book.
maybe
Maybe you need to write a book.
that's right. Yeah,
Well, I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for coming on and giving the
pleasure,
people a
Castro.
story and some hope. And I'll see you in these streets.
Hi, man. See ya.
Peace.